The time has finally come. After platinuming and 100%ing every Mafia game over the course of the last month, it's time to complete the series and platinum the newly released Mafia: The Old Country. The Old Country features 51 trophies, and as soon as the game released, I was ready to play it non-stop until the platinum was mine, and yes, I literally mean non-stop. This is literally hour 48. It's pushing on hour 49. I haven't gone to sleep yet. My goal going into this video was to try and become one of the first people to 100% the game. And if you've watched some of my other platinum speedruns, you know I was up for the challenge. But of course, this would not be easy, and let's just say this certainly turned out to be a platinum run for the ages. So without further ado, let's get into it. Alright, as you can see here, it's currently 10:58 p.m. at night. The night before, or I guess the night of the Mafia: The Old Country releases. As you can see here, we have about a minute and 25 seconds before I'm able to play the game. Again, looking forward to it. Excited to see how it compares to the 3 games before it. 3, 2, 1. Here we go. We're entering the game. It is ready to play. Oh, I'm excited. Before starting the game, I made sure to play on hard difficulty because, like every previous Mafia game, minus Mafia 3, I needed to beat the game on hard in order to earn a trophy at the end. But nonetheless, Mafia: The Old Country takes place in early 1900s Sicily and follows the story of Enzo Favara, a sulfur mine worker. His story and the prologue begins in the mines alongside his best friend, Gaetano. Here, the two appear to have hidden a stash of money that they were now looking for deep in the mine. It turns out that Enzo was saving money to pay off his father's debts and leave the mine as a free man. And after uncovering the stash, he and Gaetano make their way to the surface, but on their way, they encountered a man named Il Merlo, an underboss to Don Spadaro, who is overseeing the sulfur mine. And after their brief confrontation, Enzo and Gaetano make it to the surface. After appreciating the scenery, I picked up my first Saints card, and this would be important as I'd eventually have to find all 20 in order to get a trophy. And after learning that there was no food left, Enzo needed to sneak into a warehouse to find leftover food. Here we are introduced to the brand new knife feature. Knives would play a big role in this game, from opening doors and money stashes to taking out enemies in a variety of ways. The knives even had limited durability and would need to be sharpened in order to continue using them. But after finding a knife and breaking into a warehouse, we find some leftover food, and Enzo and Gaetano take some time to rest, but their break quickly comes to an end as Don Spadaro and his underboss Il Merlo and Lombra force Enzo and Gaetano into the deep mine to find a few workers who were reported missing. This would turn out to be a dangerous job as there were many tremors and gas leakages, and after eventually finding the dead workers, a tremor caused the mine shaft supports to become unstable, and because of the gas, chaos ensued as the mine became engulfed in flames. Now the two had to make a run for it before the mine collapsed, but on their way out, Gaetano seemed to drop the money, and while he was going back to retrieve it, the mine collapsed and he and the money were crushed. Now that his best friend and savings were gone, Enzo decided to take out his anger on Il Merlo as he was the one who forced them to go down into the deep mine. Here we get introduced to the duel system, which was similar to how fights were set up in Mafia 2 in a one-on-one like fashion. However, only in this game there were many new controls and even a health bar for both you and your opponent. This also kind of reminded me a bit of the Pirates of the Caribbean video game, as duels in that game were oddly similar to the ones in the Old Country, but nonetheless, after hitting Il Merlo with a few good shots, Enzo managed to slash his face and make a run for it, and after stealing a horse, Enzo escaped the mines, concluding the prologue. The Caruso. Enzo escaped the mine. The following chapter begins with Enzo held up in a barn when Il Merlo and his men end up tracking him to his location. Now Enzo needed to make his escape once again, but after taking out a few of Il Merlo's men, he gets caught just as he's about to escape. Thankfully, Enzo is saved by Don Teresi, as it turns out that this farm was on his territory, and by Il Merlo being on Teresi's land was a direct violation of the two families' truce. Teresi then offers Enzo an opportunity to work for him. Here we meet Luca Trapani, an underboss for Teresi and the father of Sam from Mafia 1. Next, Enzo and Luca arrive at the Teresi family's vineyard, and Enzo is shown his room where he heads to sleep. The next morning, he gets woken up by Cesare, a soldado and nephew of the Don, and after getting dressed, Enzo completes a few jobs like loading crates of wine onto a wagon, carrying in some meat for a feast, and cleaning up the stables. While cleaning up the stables, Enzo meets Isabella, the Don's daughter. Next, I'm told to get ready for the feast, but before that, I found my first newspaper, another collectible in the game, and got my next trophy. Read all about it. Found a newspaper. In my room, I also found a charm. Charms are a brand new gameplay mechanic that grants special abilities or bonuses. They act like collectibles with passive effects, and after equipping one, I got another trophy. Protected. Equipped a charm. That's pretty cool. That's a really interesting feature. After getting all cleaned up, it was time for the feast, and here Luca explains the family dynamic, introducing main players such as the Don and his consigliere Tino. And following this, the first chapter was over and I got my next trophy. Guest of honor. Enzo found a new home. I love the descriptions. Chapter 2 begins with an introduction to the business that the family takes part in. Enzo and Luca ride around the hills of Sicily making deliveries. First at Pasquale's, a mechanic, engineer, and close associate with the Teresi family. Here he has a collection of cars that can be bought, as well as a store which is where you can purchase a number of weapons, charms, and knives. And after buying a knife, Luca shows us the intricacies of dueling. And after learning some new moves and defenses, we next head to the Palio, a horse race that takes place in the town of San Celeste. And once we got to the Don's tent, it turns out that the Teresi jockey was in no state to ride, so Enzo volunteered to step up and ride instead. This race consisted of 2 laps around the city of San Celeste, but thankfully it wasn't anything like Mafia 1's race, and I was able to finish in first, but it was definitely close. Come on! Come on! Oh my god, that was a little intense. After celebrating the victory with the family, Tino tasks me to deliver wine to business associates around the city. However, it wasn't all bad as I was accompanied by Isabella, and after a few stops, we get confronted by Lombra, Spadaro underboss, and one of the men we saw at the mines, and of course it was time to duel him. And just as Enzo was about to finish him for good, Luca comes and breaks up the skirmish. Here, Luca warns Enzo that being seen alone with the Don's daughter would bring him problems, and to not do it again. This marked the end of the chapter, and I got another trophy. Forza San Celeste. Enzo won the Palio. Chapter 3 begins with Enzo reading a note he received from Isabella telling him to meet her in secret at the garden. This would actually be a side objective and a chance to earn a missable trophy. And after making my way to the garden to see Isabella, I earned the trophy. Where are you, Isabella?
I was not sure you could read.
What's that supposed to mean?
Why did you write to me?
Why did you come?
I wanted to say I'm sorry about the fight. It should never have happened.
Are you alright?
See. Maybe it's not a good idea. Us meeting like that. Like this. People might talk.
And what would they say?
Your father is who he is.
Does my father already control your life?
A little bit.
I'm sorry.
Hey. What are you doing?
Looking for Luca.
Teresi here? Sticking around where you don't belong would be the last thing you do.
You know, my god, he's scary. Capiche? Garden Rendezvous. Met Isabella in secret. Sure did. Next, Enzo heads to the stables where he finds Luca and Cesare. Here, Luca preps Enzo and Cesare on their next mission, which was to go around the countryside and collect payments from the family's associates. After collecting a few payments and learning about safe cracking, I actually spotted and collected my first mystery fox, another collectible in the game, which earned me a trophy. Mystery fox discovered. I'm not even going to try and pronounce that trophy, but I found a fox and that's all that matters. The first of 50, I believe. The trio then headed to the quarry to break up a strike and next headed to Porto El Maro to meet the Galante family. And yes, that Galante from Mafia 2 and 3, and here we meet our old friend, and I should say now young friend, Leo. Is that Leo?
Merda!
Leo,
We aim to keep
it
our
is.
mind sharp.
It's Leo Galante. That's awesome. That's little Leo. That's cool. That's a cool cameo. That's so cool. I mean, it makes sense that Leo would be in this game, of all people. Next, Enzo, Cesare, and Leo are tasked with sneaking into a customs yard to steal a shipment of whiskey. This was one of the first stealth sections of the game, and it actually reminded me a lot of The Last of Us, due to the fact that you could use coins and bottles to distract and sneak past guards. Once in the impound yard, I found a Trinacria coin. These were ancient artifacts scattered around the map that could then be sold at Pasquale's shop for 100 denarii each. What's this? Buona fortuna. That's for Oh, I think that's getting a trinket. That's what I'm gonna call it. Once getting past the guards, I found the whiskey, and once sneaking it out of the yard, Enzo, Luca, and Cesare say goodbye to Leo and his grandfather and continue on with their payment collection. At our next location, we learned from a farmer that his water pump had been stolen, and since the Teresi family was being paid to protect farmers like him, we next had to find the thieves and retrieve the pump. So we tracked the thieves to the hills and spotted some smoke. Now it was time to take out the thieves. This was the first real combat section of the game, and Cesare and I were able to take out all of the bandits quite easily, and after searching the barn, we found the pump. However, that was not the end of the action, as more bandit reinforcements showed up to try and stop us, but again, we took all of them out, hid their bodies, and returned the pump, concluding the chapter. The family business. Enzo learned the ropes. Sure did. The next chapter takes place a year later, where Enzo was introduced to Baron Fontanella, who owns much of the Valle Dorata, including lands and industrial developments. He's also the father of Gennaro Fontanella, the man who Don Teresi chose to marry his daughter. So the Don decided that in order for the two to get to know each other, Enzo and Cesare were sent to guide and protect them around the countryside during their date. While Cesare drove in the car with Gennaro, Enzo and Isabella decided to ride their horses and meet up with them at the ruins instead. On our way to the ruins, we stopped at a mountain view, and Isabella showed Enzo how to take photographs, and this was our introduction to another collectible, where we'd eventually have to take 23 photographs down the line in order to earn a trophy. After this, we met up with Cesare and Gennaro at the ruins, and while Isabella and Gennaro explored the ruins, Cesare and Enzo decided to take the car for a spin. Here I learned how to drive, and I have to say, the driving in this game immediately felt better than the driving in Mafia 1, which is crazy to say given that the cars are 25 years older in this game. But nonetheless, after doing a few laps around the ruins, we heard some screams from Isabella and decided to check it out. It turns out that bandits had found out that the Baron's son was in town and decided to attempt to kidnap him. So Cesare and Enzo fought the bandits and attempted to save Isabella and Gennaro, but it was too late and they loaded the two onto a wagon. Now it was time to chase after them, and after the car got beat up, Enzo jumped onto a horse in a very Red Dead Redemption-like fashion and caught up to the wagon, saving Isabella. He's got aura. Yeah. Yeah.
Enzo!
Isabella. You're right.
Enzo.
You're right.
Whoa! W Enzo. Oh yeah, Enzo, I see you, my boy. Oh.
Isabella. Va bene.
They took Gennaro.
I'm going after them.
Since Gennaro was captured by Messina, Enzo was sent to infiltrate the camp and rescue Gennaro. I decided to navigate through the camp stealthily until I was spotted, and after going loud, I managed to get my 30th headshot to get a trophy. Cold-blooded. Performed 30 headshots. Again, that was very easy, because really, headshots are really the only way you can kill him with one shot. And after fighting through Messina's men, I found Gennaro and saved him. But on our way out of the camp, we get confronted by Messina, and here we duel it out. Thankfully, this duel wasn't too bad, and I was able to defeat him and successfully save Gennaro. Once back at the vineyard, we informed the family that Messina was dead, concluding the mission and earning me my next trophy. A trip to the coast. Enzo saved Isabella. Chapter 5 begins with Isabella and Enzo in a chapel. Enzo is scared as he had been summoned by the Don and thinks he may be in trouble due to someone finding out he kissed Isabella. Here they shared a moment as they both revealed that they want to be together. However, they couldn't tell the Don as he had already arranged Isabella's marriage. Once Enzo met the Don, it turns out that he wasn't in trouble, but instead the Don thanked him for saving his daughter and tasked Enzo with taking out the man who set up the ambush. It turns out that one of the Baron's business partners, named Ludovici, was the one who planned the kidnapping as leverage to force the Baron to sell his holdings. So now we needed to take out Ludovici as revenge for kidnapping the Don's daughter. Before heading out to Ludovici's villa, I met up with Valerio, the Teresi gunsmith. After supplying myself with some weapons in his armory, I headed over to the villa. This was actually the first time I got access to the garage and could pick what car I wanted to drive, and I decided to use the Garzia Tumulto, which was by far the fastest car in the game. game, and because I could roam the map freely, I attempted to drive 120 kilometers for 15 consecutive seconds in order to get a trophy, but while attempting this, I actually managed to jump over 40 meters, which got me a different trophy instead. Daredevil, oh my god. No, that was jump a car over 40 meters. It's not what I wanted, but I mean, I'll take it. I continued to attempt to drive 120 kilometers for 15 seconds, but I crashed so many times that my engine broke down, but after fixing the engine by using the crank, I got another trophy. I think this might give me a trophy though. Good as new. There is. After crashing a few more times, I gave up and decided to head to the villa. Here I met up with a few of Teresi's men as well as Tino. Here they tell me that I needed to infiltrate the villa and secure Ludovici. So next I decided to approach this stealthily, and after getting past the guards and into the villa, I earned a trophy for getting inside without alerting the guards. Fantasma. That's for infiltrating the villa without being seen. After getting to Ludovici, the guards were now alerted and I needed to go loud. Since all the guards were heading toward my location, I thought this would be the perfect opportunity to use my grenades, and after killing 10 enemies with explosives, I got a trophy. Bombas away. That's for killing 10 enemies with explosives. Following this, Ludovici woke up and attempted to make a run for it. As I chased after him, I managed to kill my 20th enemy with a repeater and got another trophy. Rare weapons expert. Repeater. Okay, we're piling up trophies here. After killing all the attacking guards, I caught up with Ludovici, knocked him out, and put him in a car. From here, we met up with Tino, and here I could earn a funny hidden trophy. Alright, in order to get a trophy here, I can't kill him.
Kill this rodent.
No. I won't do it.
Do it.
Nope.
I knew you were fucking useless.
Oh. Man of honor. That's for Enzo refusing Tino's order to kill in cold blood. That's funny. That's a little Easter egg. I like that. That reminds me of like Modern Warfare 2. Since I was forced to kill Ludovici in order to progress, I decided to use my Lupara, and funny enough, Ludovici was actually the 20th enemy I killed with a weapon, and I got a trophy. That was the last one. Rare weapons expert. Lupara. That's so funny. That it counted as an enemy too. Following the completion of this job, Enzo gets made, and following his initiation into the Teresi family, he, Cesare, and Leo get drunk out of their mind and head to a brothel. Enzo ends up staying loyal to Isabella and stays in the car. In the morning, Leo, Cesare, and Pasquale surprise Enzo with an apartment where, after the mission ends, I got my next trophy. This thing of ours. Enzo got made. That was a cool chapter. It was long, but it was cool. The next chapter takes place a year later in 1906. This chapter begins with Enzo and Cesare meeting Leo and the rest of the family at a tannery. Here we learn that Don Galante had uncovered a government currency press, which would allow the Teresi family to print money for the Americans and build an international empire. However, they needed a counterfeiter to engrave the family's printing plates. Unfortunately for them, the best counterfeiter in Italy got locked up, and we now needed to break him out of jail. So Enzo, Leo, and Cesare headed to the San Celeste Town Hall, and it turns out that the Town Hall was the same building Vito fought through in the prologue of Mafia 2. Is this the church from Mafia 1? I think it is. They come around from right here, they take cover right over here, they shoot the guy. I think this is the place from Mafia 1. It's so cool they added that. We come here, we take cover, we throw the grenade over here. There's an armory. We start shooting people here. We go up the stairs. In the market square, we found an informant who showed us the interior of the building and where our man was being held. After leaving the building, we met up with Leo and Cesare and went over the plan to break out the counterfeiter. Next, the game fast forwards to later that night, and we now had to infiltrate the jail. And once getting past the guards, I made it in, and it turns out that the man we were looking for was another familiar face, Giuseppe from Mafia 2. Giuseppe! That's definitely Giuseppe. After breaking him out, he tells us that his plates had been confiscated, and I now needed to retrieve them from inside the town hall. Here, I unlocked a safe without finding its combination and got a trophy. Salvatore's Apprentice. The name of this trophy was another cool reference to a familiar face in the Mafia series. Salvatore, what game is he from? Salvatore, Mafia 1, the Italian guy. Safecracker, yep. After this, I found the plates, but the guards were now onto us, so we had to fight our way out. Thankfully, this wasn't too bad, and after exiting the courtyard, Giuseppe manages to escape. But Enzo, however, is confronted by the police major. Here, we have a duel, which was actually pretty difficult, but thankfully, I didn't need to fully kill him, as Cesare and the rest of the group group came to the rescue and we managed to escape. After this, Enzo is dropped off at his apartment and finds himself a visitor inside. Oh, and in my apartment. Is it her? There's no way she's in the bedroom. Oh my god. Yes.
I'm tired of waiting for an invitation.
What they about to do though?
Into your own hands.
Now it's your turn.
Yes. Yes, Enzo. The cross in the background. That's so funny. Lira for Lira. Enzo freed the counterfeit. Giuseppe, that's so cool he's in this game. I'm not gonna lie, this next chapter gave me a bit of PTSD, as Leo had come up with a plan to enter into the Targa Siragusa, a car race. Yes, another Mafia car race, featuring the best drivers across the world. However, first, we needed to actually get into the race. We did this by blackmailing the organizer of the race, so after taking pictures of him at a brothel, Leo managed to use that against the organizer and qualify the Teresi family for the race. Next, before actually taking part in the race, we needed to see if the car that was given to us by the Americans would actually hold up. So we decided to test it out by attempting to chase a train, and after beating the train, I got a trophy. Oh my god. Full steam ahead. A little sketchy at the end. I got it though. Now it was race day, and I definitely was a bit nervous given how hard the Mafia 1 race was, and this one definitely did not get off to a great start. I'm ready. Are you kidding me? And now we're behind. Awesome. That may have messed us up. No worry. Love it. However, after driving through the course for a bit, I realized that it wasn't too bad, and I managed to win with ease in under 8 minutes, which earned me another trophy. I'm focused. I'm locked in. Is that it? That's it. Fastest man in Sicily. Complete the race in under 8 minutes. We did it. Got a little nervous. I flipped the car, crashed it, still won in under 8 minutes. First try. Not nearly as bad as Mafia 1, thank God. Now that we had won the race, we celebrated with the family and posed for a picture. Cheers. Everything's golden. Enzo won the race. That was fun. I enjoyed that chapter. The following chapter began with a close call.
Who is it?
Minchia. Stay in here.
Open up.
Hey.
Never leave me standing on the doorstep. Who's it?
No one. Why?
You have a woman here. Get her out of here.
There's nobody here.
Don't lie to me.
I said there's nobody.
Uh-oh. Oh, W her. You got out of here. Wait. After nearly being caught with Isabella, we learned from Tino that a rat had told the police about the Teresi's operation at the tannery and that they were about to conduct a raid, so Enzo needed to race there and tell everyone to clear out. However, before leaving, I customized a horse to get my next trophy. I'm going to customize a horse. I think if I just put this on, I'll get a trophy. Riding in style, I gave it a mohawk, customized a horse. Once getting to the tannery, Enzo warns everyone of the raid, and upon meeting with Cesare, the police arrive. Here, we learn that the rat is Lombra. Now, Enzo is sent to find Giuseppe before it's too late. I initially attempted to get to Giuseppe stealthily, however, that didn't last long, as I was quickly spotted. After taking most of the police out, I checked a few buildings for Giuseppe, but went 0 for 2. But in the third building, I found Giuseppe and told him to get out of there. Next, I had to make my way back to Cesare, and I managed to kill my 20th enemy with a Modelo C96 and a pump shotgun to get my next 2 trophies. Rare weapons expert, Modelo. There we go. Rare weapons expert, pump action shotgun. After clearing out the police, I saved Cesare and we next chased after Lombra, who was attempting to escape. After a short car chase, we lost him in the fog and began to search around the area in which he got out of his car. Eventually, I tracked down Lombra and Enzo and Cesare took out the rat for good.
Why don't we just...
Bang! With the shovel.
It was a caporegime, Cesare.
It was our sole G. Rat. Bruce all'inferno.
There will be hell to pay for this.
Lucky we had nothing to do with it then.
The rat. Enzo and Cesare killed Lo Ombra. The next chapter takes place a year later, and here the family gets a visit from the Baron, who explains that there's a strike at his factory leading to a total shutdown. Apparently, the Don's childhood friend and foreman of the factory, Vincenzo Lorenzetti, was the cause behind the strike. So now Enzo is tasked with finding out information about Lorenzetti and investigating the factory. So next, I went and talked with a few guys around the vineyard, and then with Pasquale. After finding out some information about Lorenzetti and the factory operation, I then headed to Colisolfo. Once here, I questioned the locals around the town and then investigated the foreman's office. But once I got in, it seemed like he left in a hurry. After this, I talked to one of the workers who told me that Lorenzetti was seen being dragged into the factory. So now I had to find him, and like the villa earlier, I also attempted to get past the guards stealthily. And after doing this, I got my next trophy.
Old ways. That's for reaching the foreman's office without alerting the enemies. Not too bad.
Lorenzetti, what happened?
Bastard held me here. Beat me. Took everything. Even Merlo.
He was here.
It turns out that this was the doing of Il Merlo, and we fell right into his trap as he began to set the factory on fire. Now I had to escape, and after navigating through the inflamed factory and past Spadaro enemies, I made it to the doors when a Spadaro henchman confronted me. Here we had a duel, and I was able to take him out pretty easily. After this, Enzo escaped safely, concluding the chapter.
Total shutdown. Enzo found the foreman.
The next chapter, called La Festa, takes place on Saints' Day, and the day in which Lucas' child gets baptized. The chapter begins at the vineyard, where the Don and the rest of the family head off to the church in San Celeste. However, Don Teresi tasks Enzo with staying behind and driving Isabella in a separate car. So after waiting for Isabella and driving to San Celeste, we walk to the church. Before heading in, Enzo decides to look for a gift, and ends up buying Isabella a flower. Next, we head into the church and see Lucas' child's baptism. After this, the family takes a group picture, and then this happens.
Signore? Step forward.
Oh! Got me flinching. That was like a Red Dead Redemption jump scare. That got me shook. I've never flinched that hard in a game in my life.
It turns out that El Merlo was attempting to assassinate someone from the Teresi family, so now Enzo needed to protect the rest of the family and take him out for good. However, this would be easier said than done, as El Merlo had the high ground and was shooting anything that moved. But eventually, Enzo made it inside the church and confronted him in the tower. This was the start of another duel, to which after hitting him a few times, El Merlo makes a run for it. Next, we chase him in and out of homes across the city until he hits a dead end, and we have yet another duel. This, like the first, ends quickly as El Merlo attempts to run again. Eventually, we meet up with Luca, take out some Spadaro men, and get on a horse to chase after El Merlo. Next, we chase after his car until he ends up crashing. After inspecting the crash, it turns out that he wasn't dead, and we had yet another duel. However, this time I managed to beat him for good, or so I thought.
And now! Yes!
Oh, he never goes away, bro. Luca. Out to Luca.
You saved me. Again. Enzo.
No more running. Enzo killed his nemesis, finally.
The next chapter begins with Don Teresi, Don Galante, and the Baron discussing a potential meeting to end the war with the Spadaros. After some convincing, Teresi eventually agrees to a meeting. Next, the story fast forwards to meeting day, and after a brief moment with Isabella, Enzo and the rest of the guys get in the car and make their way to the meeting location at Don Galante's tuna factory. Once here, the meeting begins, and things do not get off to a good start. It turns out that the only way Don Spadaro would agree to end the war was if the Baron handed over the Teresi territory, including the vineyard, to him and the Spadaros. Obviously, Don Teresi wasn't having it, and then this happened. Oh my god! No! Oh, it's getting active. Luca! Now that Don Galante was dead and Luca had been shot, we needed to escape the ambush. While fighting through the Spadaros, I got my 20th kill with the Vendetti to get my next trophy.
There we go. Rare Weapons Expert Vendetti.
After getting past all of the enemies, Cesare pulls up in the getaway truck and we attempt to make our escape, but this wouldn't be easy as the Spadaros continued to chase after us in their cars. Here I needed to eliminate 10 cars while escaping the Tanara, and after shooting the engines and ultimately destroying 10 cars, I got the trophy.
10. Trail of Destruction. Eliminated 10 cars in this little chase scene.
Once we escaped the cars, we made it to the Galante bar where, after killing the last few stragglers, we headed inside to check on Luca.
Open up! They're gone. Luca!
Here, hold this. Put pressure on it. There's morphine upstairs. The girls will show you.
Where is the doctor? He's coming. You'll be alright, okay?
He does not
You're
look
right.
good.
It's...
No. Luca.
Get up. If you can. Get up. Luca. Luca.
No.
Luca. 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 Luca.
He's not even doing
Got
it.
it. I've got Luca, svegliati.
He's dead. Oh, Luca. Neutral ground. Enzo lost his mentor. R.I.P. Luca.
The next chapter begins with Enzo being woken up early in the morning as he learns that Don Teresi needed to speak with him immediately. So Enzo and Cesare ride their horses back to the vineyard and make their way to the wine cellar to speak with the Don. Here the Don tells Enzo that now that Luca was dead, the family needed to exact revenge on both the Baron and Don Spadaro. It turns out that conveniently they were both meeting at an opera house in Palermo to settle their deal. So now Enzo needed to essentially be smuggled into the city of Palermo and then infiltrate the opera house. But after the Don dismisses Enzo, we are pulled aside by Isabella, who informs him that she is pregnant and wasn't happy that Enzo was risking his life for her father's just like Luca did. However, Enzo had his mind made up and he proceeds to carry on with his mission anyway. So he hops into a carriage and is driven to Palermo. Since there was a rise in anarchy in the city, the police were on high alert, so Enzo would have to be careful with how he attempted to get into the opera house. Here we meet up with Father Clemente, who could guide us through the catacombs that were underneath and connected to the opera house. So after following him through the tunnels, I took out a few guards, one of which was my 20th with a knife, and I got a trophy.
Secret Assassin. That's for killing 20 enemies with knife takedowns. I knew I had to be close.
Once getting past the rest of the guards, we find a ladder and Enzo makes his way into the opera house. This was actually one of my favorite settings in the game, as Enzo had to sneak through the backstage of the opera house. And after passing the guards and getting to the royal box, Enzo completes his first of 2 tasks and eliminates the Baron.
You agreed. So a good man die. People
Kill him.
mourn him. Who the fuck would agree for you?
Oh my god.
You.
Get in there, now!
Now that Don Spadaro caught Enzo, we now had to chase after him, but of course a ton of guards were now converging on my location and I needed to take them out, and once getting past them and chasing the Don back into the catacombs, I took out more of his guards and ended up getting confronted by him. Here, of course, we had a duel, which was definitely one of the tougher ones in the game, but I managed to kill him once and for all.
Oh. No room for talking, you just killed him.
After killing Spadaro, Father Clemente finds Enzo, and Enzo makes his way out of the city, barely, and back to the Teresi vineyard. Here he gives Teresi Don Spadaro's ring, confirming that the job was done. Here Don Teresi informs Enzo that Luca was buried while he was gone, so Enzo next heads to his grave. After paying his respects, Isabella comes to talk to Enzo, and they plan to leave the family behind and attempt to flee to America. Following their conversation, the chapter ends, and I earn my next trophy.
most dutiful soldier. Enzo exacted revenge.
The next chapter begins with Enzo walking in on the Don beating a Spadaro man to a pulp. Here, the Don tells Enzo that the sulfur mine was now in Teresi control and that Enzo was now the man in charge of it. However, before getting too excited, they needed to clean up a few loose ends. On the way to bury the man that the Don had killed, Tino informs Enzo that they needed to kill the remaining Spadaro captains, Dino Mazzoni, Matteo Costa, and Demetrio Cassini. Thankfully, the Don's interrogation had gone well, and we now knew their exact locations. So after burying Ignazio and the man who dug the hole, Enzo makes his way back to the vineyard where Cesare preps him on the mission. But before heading back out, Enzo meets with Isabella, and she tells him that everything is ready for them to leave. But of course, Enzo had one last job to do. But before heading to the location of the first target, Dino Mazzoni, I stopped at Pasquale's shop to buy some car paint, and after customizing a car, I got a trophy.
Driving in style. Customized a car.
Once meeting up with Valerio, Enzo makes his way through a forest, and again I decided to do this section stealthily, and after getting past the guards and killing Mazzoni without anyone being alerted, I got my next trophy.
I do it. Silent Hunter. As for killing Mazzone without alerting his men. Pretty easy.
Next, we head to the location of Demetrio Cassini, and upon getting to a ruined church, we see Cesare in the middle of a gunfight. But before engaging, I decided to destroy the car outside of the church, which would be helpful in just a minute. But after taking out my 20th enemy using the Processione, I got another trophy.
There we go. Rare weapons expert. I'm not even gonna try and pronounce that.
Because I destroyed the car outside, Cassini could not escape, and after killing him, I got a trophy for killing him before he reached the salt flats.
Not so fast. That is for killing Caccini before he reached the salt flats. He didn't even get a chance because I blew up his car.
Now that 2 of the 3 Spadaro holdouts were dead, Cesare and Enzo meet up with Tino at a church, and here he tells us that Costa was held up at the top of the hill. So Cesare and I fought our way past the Spadaro soldiers and to the front of the church where we confronted and killed Costa, the final Spadaro holdout. Before the mission ended, a cutscene is shown with Enzo and Cesare celebrating the family's victory. Here we learn that Leo knows of Enzo's plan to leave, and he even provides him with a ticket for a ship to Empire Bay. We also see another familiar face, Frank Vinci, who had begun working closely with Leo during the same time. After this, the cutscene ends, and I earned my next trophy.
Everything you deserve. Enzo killed the Spadaro holdouts.
Now it was time for the final chapter in the game. Chapter 14 begins with Enzo meeting up with Isabella at Valentina's house, and after getting her belongings into the car, the two head to the train station, but once there, things quickly go downhill.
Even without saying goodbye.
Enzo!
Oh. No.
I always knew you were trouble, Caruso.
No, you didn't.
Now you're gonna get what's coming to you.
It turns out that Isabella told Father Ciccone about the baby, and Ciccone ended up ratting her and Enzo out to the Don. So the two were split up, and Enzo was taken to where his story began, the sulfur mines. Here he is confronted by Cesare and the Don, and after sharing his disappointment, the Don tasks Cesare with ending Enzo's life, and as he's about to take out his knife, Mount Etna erupts, and Enzo uses this as his chance to make a move, so he proceeds to tackle Cesare through the window. The two roll down a hill, and a duel then ensues. This duel honestly wasn't too bad, and I was able to defeat Cesare without much of a problem. However, instead of killing him, Enzo decided to spare him as he still considered him a friend. So Enzo leaves him behind and continues his escape. And this was by far one of the coolest atmospheres I've ever experienced in a game, from the smoky air caused by the eruption to the flying molten rocks destroying everything in sight. This atmosphere and setting perfectly encapsulated the feel and tone of this chapter. But after getting past some of the Don's men, we make it to a bridge where it proceeds to collapse. Enzo is then woken up to the shouts of the Don and his men, who proceeded to shoot at him. Enzo then runs into the mines to attempt to escape. However, the Don's men followed him, and Enzo now had to not only worry about the gas and the potential collapsing of the mine, but also the Don's men as well. But after managing to escape safely past the Don and his men, he gets tackled and confronted by Teresi, and just as it looked like Enzo was done for, he grabs a lantern and sets the nearby supports on fire, causing the shaft to collapse, crushing Teresi. Now that Enzo managed to somehow escape the mines with his life still intact, he now needed to make his way back to Isabella, but somehow the Don survived and the two faced off in a duel for the ages. And here is where I had to attempt one of the hardest trophies in the game, which required me to take no damage in the duel against the Don, which, if you are good at duels, doesn't sound all that bad, but that was definitely not me, so I knew this was going to be tough, and it definitely was. Oh! Why did I do that? This is gonna be hard. I'm really bad at the duels. Oh! Oh, I didn't expect him to do that again. Thankfully, after damaging him enough, a shortcut scene would occur, which marked a checkpoint in the duel, so that was my saving grace. But even with a checkpoint, I still continued to struggle.
All you are! Everywhere!
No! This is hard. No!
You'll have to kill me!
Alright. Are you kidding me? Come on! Smash him! No! He was right there! He was right there! Oh, I was so close! And after 25 minutes or so of attempts, I finally had a good run and defeated Teresi once and for all. Yes! Yes! Worthy opponent. Defeated Don Teresi without taking a single hit. That took a lot longer than I would have liked. My heart is beating so fast. Yes! Ooh.
You could have had it all. I have everything I need.
R.I.P. Bozo. After killing the Don, Enzo notices that Cesare had been watching, and it appears as if the two no longer had beef, as Cesare offered his hand to Enzo, but it was too good to be true. I don't know if I trust him. I knew it.
I'm sorry.
I knew it. I knew it. No. Imagine a rock just comes over and smashes them. I did all that work just to die right there. Are you kidding me? Desiree, you're an L-man. First I let you go and then you kill me. You backstab me, literally. This is unfortunately where Enzo's story ended, but this was not the end for Isabella. So we next switched to Isabella being confronted by Tino as they were preparing to take her to a doctor to get rid of the baby. But Isabella was a fighter and wasn't going for that at all. And here we actually get to take control of her as she attempts to make her escape from the vineyard. This part was honestly pretty cool and unexpected. Here we navigate through the burning house, sneaking past guards and nearly making it out of the vineyard before we are unfortunately found by Tino.
There you are.
No! 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 Bastard!
Enough!
It's gonna be another duel. Oh no. Or I'm just running. Now it was time to take Tino out once and for all, and this part really reminded me of The Last of Us when Ellie has to sneak attack David, but nonetheless, this was honestly really easy, and after sneak attacking Tino a few times, we finally took him out for good. Tino, you're dead, buddy. Finally. That's such a cool shot. Thank God. He's dead. After this, a car pulls up and Isabella learns Enzo's fate.
Where is Enzo? Where is he? Cesare, where is he?
There's nothing for you here now. You need to go.
Number one op. You should kill him. Wow. What if this is the same boat that Vito is on?
We'll remember today for the rest of our lives.
Mafia 2 music.
My loyalty,
Please tell me Vito's on the ship. That would be so hard.
Enzo.
Where's Vito? This is Mafia 2 music. Please tell me it's Empire Bay. It is. Where's Vito? Where's baby Vito? And Francesca. Oh, true soldado. That's for beating the game on hard. Only one way out. That's for finishing Enzo and Isabella's story. The Old Country. That's for completing the story on any difficulty. I think that's it. Mafia, the Old Country. Wow, I thought we were really about to see baby Vito. I think it'd be a little bit early though. What a game. That was really cool. That was a really fun game.
And after 11 hours and 40 minutes, I had completed the main story of Mafia the Old Country. However, the platinum was still a ways away, as I still had a number of miscellaneous and collectible trophies to earn. I first went back and attempted to drive at 120 kilometers per hour for at least 15 seconds, and after a few tries, I managed to get lucky and earn the trophy.
Yes! Getaway driver. That's for driving at least 120 kilometers per hour for at least 15 seconds. Much easier with this one, I think, just because it's the fastest car in the game.
Next, I began to collect a bunch of denarii by replaying missions, opening caches, and finding and selling Trinacria coins I found around the map. And after 4 hours or so, I saved up enough denarii to buy all available cars from Pasquale and earn my next trophy.
Finer things. Bought all available cars from Pasquale.
Next, I went for a trophy that honestly didn't make a whole lot of sense at the time, called Live by the Blade. This trophy required me to perform all special actions 5 times with each knife, and given that the game had just come out, there were no guides available and I wasn't exactly sure what this entailed, so my best guess was to attempt to kill 5 enemies with each knife that held a special ability. So I went back to the 5th mission where I needed to infiltrate the villa, and during this chapter, thankfully at the camp outside of the villa, there was a box where I could buy and switch knives, and inside the front gate were 2 denarii caches that I could farm. So for the next hour or so, I farmed the 5 kills with each knife, going down the list, as well as opening the denarii caches, buying new knives, and repeating, and to my surprise, after the 4th knife or so, I got the trophy.
Live by the Blade. Performed all special actions 5 times with each knife. I'll take it. I was gonna go through every single knife, but I'm glad I didn't have to.
Like I said, I'm still not exactly sure what this trophy entails, but I'm sure there's a guide out there by now that can explain the requirements better than me. But nonetheless, all that now remained were the collectible trophies, and I didn't expect it at the time, but this turned out to be hell. Because if you remember, like I just said, since the game had just released, there were no guides detailing the locations of each collectible, and I wasn't the only one feeling this pain, as me and a few other trophy hunters were stuck on 48 trophies for over a day. And this caused a bit of a conundrum for me, as I was well up for close to 30 hours, but I also didn't want to go to sleep just in case a guy dropped in the middle of the night. And given that I was 8th in the world at the time, I decided to thug it out and stay up. So literally for the next 10 plus hours or so, I stayed up and refreshed gaming guide websites across the internet in hopes of finding a collectible guide, and eventually guides for photographs, newspapers, and Saint card collectibles finally dropped. And thankfully I had found most of these by myself, which made getting the remaining few a lot more efficient.
There we go. And there we go. Final photo location, all 23. Alright, there should be the last Saints card. There we go. All 20 have now been found. Here we go. The final newspaper. Where's it at? Here it is. Flying Men. 50 out of 50. Okay.
But these were not the only collectibles, as I needed to find 50 mystery foxes scattered across both chapters and the open world. And again, for the next 10 plus hours or so, I waited patiently for a guide. But given that I was now up for over 40 hours, I decided to take matters into my own hands and search for the foxes myself. And I actually managed to find 35 all by myself. After 35, I got stuck and decided to pause and wait for a guide. And a few hours later, I refreshed the PSN Profiles leaderboard and saw that 4 people had already earned the platinum, meaning that a guide had to be out there somewhere. And after scouring the PSN profile forums, I found a guide posted by the 2nd ever The Old Country Platinum Achiever, Marley of War. So I followed his guide and tried to collect the 15 remaining foxes as fast as possible, as I wanted to at least finish in the top 10 first platinum achievers. And after an hour or so of traveling across the map, finding foxes I missed and replaying missions, I found my 50th and earned the final 3 The Old Country trophies.
Here he is. Number 50 for the platinum. Oh my god, Mystery Fox domination. And the collector and the Dawn, the platinum trophy. Oh my god. What is this, hour? This is literally hour 48. It's pushing on hour 49. It has been completed. Oh my god. Oh, it's over.
Again, big shout out to Marley of War for being the first person to post a guide for the mystery foxes, but now that the platinum was earned, it was time to see if I found the foxes quick enough to make the top 10.
And when we go over here to leaderboards, I am the 8th person on PSN profiles, and I'll call it the world, to have platinumed Mafia, the Old Country. Wow, that's really cool. As you can see here, the 8th to do it. 2 days and 8 minutes. I have not stopped. I have not gone off my console. I have not gone to sleep. I am exhausted. I'm going to sleep.
After beginning the Old Country Platinum run on Thursday night, I earned my final trophy just before Sunday morning. Nearly 50 consecutive hours of playing Mafia the Old Country, I had completed my goal of attempting to get a top 10 placement. At the time, I also had the 3rd fastest time to Platinum, but I have since fallen to number 55. So, was it worth it? Probably not, but I'm so glad that I was able to become one of the first to platinum the latest edition in one of my favorite game franchises. And it also helps that Mafia the Old Country was a fantastic game. I absolutely love the story, and I think I'd put it behind Mafia 2 for the best in the Mafia franchise. And I know a lot of people weren't happy with the ending, but I personally loved what the writers did. It was different from your typical happy ending finale and provided a shocking and abrupt end to Enzo's story. I also liked the new mechanics with the knives and charms, and the gameplay reminded me a lot of The Last of Us. The setting was beautiful and also reminded me a bit of Red Dead Redemption. Lastly, I absolutely loved the connection to the other Mafia games, such as the returning characters and even the Mafia 2 music when Enzo held the Empire Bay postcard.
Whoa! Mafia 2 music!
We'll be far away from here.
Oh my god.
I have everything prepared.
As for the trophies, I felt as if there was a good mix between easy, medium, and hard trophies. Nothing stood out to be over the top, and no miscellaneous trophy was super easy either. And how could I forget the reference to Salvatore from Mafia 1?
Nice work, scusami. Cura! Era collegato all'allarme! What? Intrappolato!
And the hidden trophy for not killing Ludovici. If you were contemplating buying this game, I highly recommend you do so and experience the game for yourself. Thank you guys for all the support on the Mafia series, and I hope you stick around for my next series, which will begin in a few weeks. If you enjoyed, be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.